You're tuned in to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show with your host, myself, Sajdah Wendy Muhammad. I am a multi-million-dollar business developer. I have developed business and real estate around the world, and I want to share with you my mental strategies, my technical strategies, and how I made it in the world of business. So I don't teach theory. I tell you about my life and introduce you to people who can also share with you what they've done to become successful. This is a practical show. This ain't a theory show. You don't want to miss it. So stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. Welcome to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show. We got a very special show planned for you tonight. We're going to be talking about mental health and psychotherapy. I can't wait for you all to learn about it. Share this page, like and subscribe to the page, and sit back. It's almost time to get you something to drink and eat, and we'll be right back.
O Allah, guide me among those whom Thou hast guided Thee right, and preserve me among those whom Thou hast preserved, and befriend me among those whom Thou hast befriended. Bless me in whatsoever Thou dost grant me, and deliver me from the evil of what Thou hast judged. Surely Thou judgest, and none can judge against Thee, and he whom Thou befriendest is not disgraced. Blessed art Thou, Lord, and exalted be Thee above what they set up besides Thee. I bear witness, nothing deserves to be served besides Thee, and I bear witness that Muhammad is Thy servant and apostle. Amen.
All right, I'm back, and you're tuned in to the Mind of an Entrepreneur show, and I'm your host, Sister Sajdah Muhammad. So you got two sisters tonight with two beautiful names. We're going to be talking to Sister Saaudiah Muhammad. And I think that's how you pronounce it. We're going to double check with her. But we're going to be talking about, she's a psychotherapist, she's an author, just a wonderful and beautiful sister. And it's important for me to, I've just been on this mission and it's just been burning my heart to share with the world what we have to offer in terms of business, in terms of every single industry, to be honest with you, that there is to be had out here in the world. Muhammad makes some really, really good business people and soldiers as well. So you'll learn that on this show. So make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media on Facebook at Sajdah Wendy Muhammad, on Instagram at Sajdah Wendy Muhammad, or Sajdah House. All right, so I'm going to bring my sister in and we're going to have a quick chat and send y'all on y'all way because I know y'all ready for some water. This has been such a glorious fast. Anyway, assalamu alaikum, sis.
Walaikum salam.
How are you?
I am wonderful. Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Kareem. Hasn't this been a wonderful fast?
It really has. It's been so enlightening, a little tiring, but still wonderful nonetheless.
Yeah. You know what I do every year? Every year is Savior's Day, and every year during Ramadan, I say it's the best Savior's Day ever, best Ramadan ever. And I'm saying it again this year. I've just felt so clear. And it's like every day something amazing has happened to me or for me. And I usually try to keep up with, I try to keep up and go, okay, Allah, what can I do? Because you're blessing me. And I can't even keep up with all the beautiful things that are happening during this Ramadan season. So pronounce your name for me.
Sadia.
Oh, it's Sadia. I done made it all fancy. Sadia.
Added a few syllables, but it's all good.
I love it. It's just so beautiful. Tell the audience what it means.
Sadia means black, and it also means rich in soul, texture, and spirit.
That's beautiful. Very beautiful. I just love it. Very, very beautiful. So sis, you're an author, you're a psychotherapist, an entrepreneur, and I want to dig into this. Let's talk about this psychotherapy piece. What is psychotherapy?
Okay. Well, psychotherapy is basically talk therapy that is utilized by a mental health professional. I'm a licensed clinical social worker. It could be a psychologist. It could be LCPC, licensed. I always forget it because I'm not an LCPC, but it's a mental health professional that uses talk therapy to help individuals who may be experiencing any kind of mental health illnesses, emotional discomfort, and it allows that individual to have a space and a platform by which they can talk about issues that they may be experiencing, maybe do some talk about with the psychotherapist, some solutions. A psychotherapist is not to be confused with a psychiatrist, which a psychiatrist is an MD, a medical doctor who can prescribe medication. A psychotherapist cannot prescribe medication. However, what we do is make diagnoses. And from there, we can, based on whatever diagnosis we may give to a client or a patient, ask that person to speak with their general practitioner and let them know, based on my psychotherapist, my therapist says I am experiencing depression or adjustment disorder or anxiety. And from there, their medical doctor could prescribe medication, or they can see a psychiatrist to prescribe medication. But generally, psychiatrists are not going through the stages of actually talking to the patient in terms of helping them work through their issues. They're more based on the mental health diagnosis and then making a prescription for whatever medication would best suit what it is that they're experiencing.
Okay, I see what you're saying. And so, how does a person, because it seems like a psychotherapist would be a lot less scarier than a psychiatrist, right? And so,
I think so.
yeah, I think so. So I was wondering, like, so how would a person seek you out?
Well, I am available I have a page on Psychology Today. I'm listed with Black mental health providers in the Chicagoland area.
Mhm.
And I have a few other mental health directory resources that I'm listed in. But
Mhm.
most, I would say probably about 90% of the clients that I see are based off of my Psychology Today profile page, along with personal referrals that I get. So that's mainly the bulk of the clients that I see, or how they've come to me.
Mm-hmm. Do you take insurance or do they have to pay for it themselves?
Well, I both. I actually have my own business, Black Butterfly Consulting and Counseling,
Mm-hmm.
and with Black Butterfly, that's mental health consulting along with therapy, and with that, that is self pay,
Okay.
meaning that they pay out of pocket. But then I also contract with other therapy practices where I can take insurance. So I try and make it accessible for
And
persons, whether they're on the low end of the scale in terms of maybe
mhm.
low income, because the practice that I'm at actually does take Medicaid. So it definitely is accessible for all people, regardless of their financial situation.
Before we get into mental health in our community, tell us how you got into this.
Wow. Well, I've always had a love for helping people. And I mean, even as a child, just always loved helping people. But as I got older, I found that people would just naturally gravitate to me to tell me their problems.
You've always
And
had that energy and that smile when Sister Nadia, shout out to Sister Nadia, when she
yes,
asked me, did I know you? I was like, of course I know her. And all I remember is that smile that you've actually had that's been consistent. And so I can easily see people thinking, okay, I think I can talk to her.
yes. Well, thank you for that. But yeah, it's always been something that people always would just come to me. I didn't have a neon sign saying "Come to me." I'll listen, but I would. And so actually, one of my friends from high school, she used to call me Mother Wisdom because everybody, all of my friends would just come to me and talk to me about whatever they were dealing with. So I went to college, I majored in psychology.
Mhm.
And then I worked for quite some time in just various fields within social services. I started out in child welfare, which was that is such a foundational position. It gave me a look into a world in social services that I wasn't really privy to prior to graduating from college, or just being in just living and working with children who had parents who dealt with addictions, whether it was drugs or alcohol. And that was just something that I wasn't necessarily very used to. But in working child welfare, I learned so much. But I also did community mental health, and I've done quite a few things. But what really prompted me to go into or to take a deeper dive into mental health was I was a social worker in a hospital, and I worked in the ER. And hospitals are very interesting. And we know,
Yeah.
healthcare in America is trash.
Mhm.
But one thing that I noticed was when we would get patients that came into the ER that were just straight medical patient, the doctors and nursing staff, kind, sweet, helpful. But when we would get patients who, and mind you, this was a hospital that was a community hospital. So it was mostly Black, brown people, and poor white people. So when we would get patients who were dealing with mental health issues, whether it was wanting to harm themselves or would maybe be having some kind of psychotic episode, there would be no compassion, none. I mean, you would have thought that that person, was just, I mean, it was just a terrible sight to see. And every time we would have a mental health crisis or a patient that was dealing with a mental health crisis, they would, of course, call me because I was a social worker. But what they noticed was how I was just kind and gentle and treated the patient with respect, regardless of whatever they were experiencing. And that prompted me just internally to, I felt that I needed to do something. And I felt that I wanted to be in a position where I could help those who were experiencing mental health issues. As a psychotherapist, I generally don't see clients who may have, or patients who may have severe mental health issues such as schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, bipolar one, bipolar one, which is persons who may have had psychiatric hospitalizations. I generally tend to see patients who may have milder issues such as maybe bipolar 2, adjustment disorder, depression, anxiety. And those are the patients that I typically work with. But regardless, I found that in the hospitals, they were not treated with dignity often and with respect. And so that prompted me to want to dive deeper into mental health. And I got my master's, and then, here I am. And so I'm very blessed.
So I think what I hear you saying is that oftentimes when a patient presents in the ER with what might be considered a milder case of mental health, like depression or anxiety, versus someone with a obvious clinical diagnosis like schizophrenia or some type of personality disorder or something, the patients with the milder cases are not even really given the time or the care or maybe even the attention that the other patient would be given, just because people just don't want to discern.
I think it's multiple things. I think part of it was there's still, even in the medical field, for some, a misunderstanding about mental health. Sometimes it felt as if some of the staff thought that, it was a communicable disease. And, it's like, we're in a hospital and we're here to help people. But the other part of it was as if it was a crime, like, oh, they've done something. And no one asks to experience any kind of mental health issues. No one wants to be depressed. No one wants to experience anxiety. No one wants to have those things. Those may be things that they're experiencing, but no one sits and prays about wanting to have no motivation to do the things that you would normally do or love to do or want to do. No one wants to be in that particular emotional space. So to be in a clinical setting where it's a hospital, you're supposed to be helping people. But again, we know that that doesn't always happen. So it for me, I just wanted to do my part in trying to help in whatever way.
Yeah, and I think I've seen this a lot in the hospital, where the staff is trained to deal with the obvious clinical situations. But then the other people who appear to be functional, but yet have some mental issues, people just don't want to deal with it. I don't know if they pass it off and say, okay, somebody else is going to deal with it, but you just don't see that type of training very often in many of the hospitals. And those are a lot of the patients that we end up seeing with cardiovascular disease and stuff like that, because that's where it begins. So I applaud you for just taking up the mantle of something that no one else wants to pay attention to. Because generally what happens in healthcare and in medicine, everybody kind of flocks towards the popular subjects.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And the ones that make the most money and all of that kind of stuff. So when you're what I found is interesting is the cultural nuances in the mental health space. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has taught us, warned us, and explained to us that Armageddon, the war of Armageddon, has already begun. And what comes with that is the chaos that ensues, that oftentimes people are dealing with, that lead them to mental health. What types of issues are you seeing among our people that is driving them towards needing to seek help for mental health?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier, and the pandemic was very pivotal for the world. But what I saw was, for a lot of people, the pandemic, it shined a light on a lot of people's functioning or lack thereof. And, when we were, and I actually should say the lockdown, I should say, because COVID is still very much present. But during lockdown, when especially around 2020, people didn't know what to do with themselves. And I don't mean from a place of boredom, but a lot of people didn't have the vices that they would use, or didn't have access to things or places that would help them maybe get through a stressful moment or a point in time. So if all you have is yourself, and if all you have is whatever you have to help build you internally, a lot of people experience not really feeling up to the task of dealing with some of their issues, because a lot of times we will suppress a lot of the things that we're experiencing. I don't want to deal with this. So we, do whatever. You go shopping, or you go to after work, maybe go to the gym. And it's not that shopping or gym are bad things, but if you're doing it to not address the fact that you're feeling, anxious or depressed, or you're stressed out about your job, then now it becomes an issue. And during the pandemic, when people weren't going out, obviously, or during the lockdown, when people weren't going out as much, people didn't know what to do. And so I got a huge surge in my clientele. And you mentioned something about, really our people. There are Black therapists, mostly women, but the large majority of therapists are non-Black. They're white, and it's really important for me as a clinician, as a Muslim, to avail myself to my people. And it's something because oftentimes I've had so many clients who may have had therapy before, but they had therapy with a white person, or therapy with someone who just did not get them. And that's something that's really key, because you're going to be sharing bits and pieces of your life, and sometimes sharing things that may be very traumatic, that may be very painful, and you want someone who can connect with you and who can not only have empathy, but that in certain circumstances, depending on what it is that you're sharing about, who just gets what you're talking about. I see a lot of Muslims, and now we're in the holy month of Ramadan. Well, my Muslim clients don't have to explain to me what Ramadan is and why they're not drinking during the day, and having to really explain things. And that's something that is so important, just being able to connect with someone and not have to explain everything or every bit of what you have to share, and having that cultural connection is really important for a lot of people. Not all, but for a lot of people, that's really important.
You mentioned the influx of patients during or around the time of the lockdown. Were these people coming to you with what it appeared to be pre-existing conditions, or conditions that came about as a result, of the lockdown?
Both. I think, again, a lot of people were not fully addressing certain issues that they may have had, but then there was the uncertainty of the pandemic and what we were dealing with. And also, we know that the things that continue to happen to our people, the George Floyd incident. I got a lot of clients that had secondary trauma as a result of that particular incident. Breonna Taylor, we know the list goes on and on and on. And every time we hear about one of these incidents, for some people they may be desensitized, but for others it's very jarring. And so with the constant barrage of our people getting murdered, that does something to a person. There was a percent, I would say about 50-50. Half already had issues that they just were not addressing. And then the other half, I believe the pandemic just was a catalyst for some of their discomforts and issues.
Yeah, that's that George Floyd piece, and I tell this story often. I was in Chicago when it happened, and my business partner from Maryland, he's a surgeon. He called me. It's about 4:00 in the morning. I thought something had happened, or maybe they had a surgery or something, and he had a question. So I answered the phone. I said, "Hey," and he said, "Whatever you do, when you get up, do not turn on the television." And my flight was leaving. He said, "What time's your flight?" I said, "Well, my flight leaves at 9. He says, "Okay." So, and he's like backtracking. "So you got to leave about 7, get to the airport." And I said, "Yeah." I said, "What's going on?" He said, "There was a man who was murdered, and I don't even want you to see it." He knows me. We've worked together for 14 years. So he knows that I can get a little sensitive. And he said, I don't even want you to see it." And he said, "Do not." He said, I said, "Well, what happened?" He said, "I'll explain it to you." And so I said, "Okay." So when I usually would take a flight from Chicago on that Monday morning and then get to Maryland, to DC area, and then go straight to the office. So I go straight to the office. And then he explained it to me. And so I just never watched it. I made myself keep turning it, because it was just something about that one that I just didn't want to be impacted by. And I'm grateful for him for saying that to me. And so no, don't, I don't even want you to know about it. So, and I think that's an important thing. And he taught me something in that situation. And there were a couple other situations like that when I said, we all need family members and friends who will handle us in a certain way and explain things to, and so it really just made me think deeper about how I handle people. He was having a situation with one of his children, and I said, "Listen, let me talk to you." And it just made me go deeper in terms of sharing and not being so quick to pick up the phone and just, blurt out something that happens, not and being sensitive about how it's impacting people. I had a friend just the other day who explained to me that she's really being severely impacted by the banking crisis.
Yes.
And I remember feeling bad because I'm a finance person and economist, and so and she and I are always talking about business and the economy. And I noticed that when we were talking, she just didn't sound right. And I asked her, and she said, "This is really messing me up. And I need to go see my counselor." So that's why I asked you that question, because I don't think that we really understand how these things that now seem to be day to day, now that we're in the midst of the war of Armageddon, are impacting people. And it reminds me of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad saying that at one point we would be praying for our sanity.
Yes.
And being grateful for it. How do you keep yourself healthy through all of this? Because for me, I get sensitive. My energy gets, impacted. And so I'm real careful about my vibrations and stuff. And I always think about people like yourself, or people who are attorneys who are dealing with really rough situations, and just making sure you keep yourself healthy and whole.
Well, you said something that's really key. When we see these videos and the savageness of, Satan and how he murders us, we don't have to watch those videos. We don't have to, right. To just know what happened is enough. And so for me, particularly when it comes to those things, I don't watch any of those videos. I don't need to see it. I know the impact of what happened in terms of someone's life has been lost, someone was murdered.
Yeah.
I don't need to see that kind of image and have that be burned into.
It's just the repetition of it. They just keep playing it over and over to the point where you already know that you're impacting your brain and your psyche by looking at this thing over and over and over again.
Absolutely. And it really does. It's traumatic.
Right.
And so people will become ill affected by seeing it over and over and over. And whether it's a different person who's a victim or another person, it doesn't make a difference. Seeing all of those kinds of videos can be damaging to our emotional and mental health. So I don't. But in terms of, I'm big on self-care. And even prior to being a psychotherapist, and I'm always just taking time for me. I do meditation. I do sound healing. I like to shop. I love to cook. I love to bake. And I work out. So I do a lot of things that take me away from what I do. I'm very strict in terms of keeping boundaries.
Absolutely.
I work when I work, and I do not work when I'm not working. And so, sometimes as a psychotherapist, people will, constantly, if they hear you're a psychotherapist, all of a sudden, they got a story to tell you, or even just my friends will sometimes just share a lot. And, when I am talking to my friends and engaging with my friends and loved ones, you have Saaudiah, but you have Saaudiah the friend, you have Saaudiah, your sister. You don't have Saaudiah the psychotherapist.
Right.
And I make that very clear because I can't be on 24/7. I absolutely cannot.
Let me tell you something. I was having this conversation with somebody the other day. When I was in Maryland, we were building the hospital. We had so much press and so many people started to know us that it got to the point where if I went and got my hair done, then they wanted to talk about business. If I went and got my nails done, then they wanted me to analyze their business. If I went and, whatever, if I went and got a facial, now they're talking about, hey, can you take a look at this? And it just happened. It's starting to happen to me now in Chicago. It just happened to me. I do stretch therapy, from working out, work out, and then I stretch. And then the stretch therapist was talking to me about helping somebody else get a job. And I don't mind because I understand what it's like when you're on the other end and you see somebody that you think that could help you. But I couldn't help but kind of feel some kind of way, because then I start feeling like, okay, everywhere I go now, people are asking me to help with this. And I learned then, I said, okay, so that means that I have to be even more meticulous about my me time.
Yes. Yes.
Because,
and setting those boundaries. That's something that I'm always talking to my clients about, setting boundaries and keeping those boundaries, because sometimes people may not, intentionally want to be a bother or intentionally want to, get on your nerves or encroach on your private time. But you have to be able to put you first. You have to, because there's always going to be someone that's going to need help. I mean,
and I think too, people don't realize also that while for them it's just me getting my nails done, or for them it's just me getting my hair done, or for them it's just me getting my stretch therapy, but it's really my me time.
exactly.
And so, and for me, finding the balance, because I do love that so much, I'm probably going to talk about it anyway. But sometimes it becomes a point where I want to unplug, and, you can't always do that. But, I just kind of start saying, you know what, I know I signed up for this and I enjoy the conversations so much. And it's something that I do, but at the same time, it's important that we take our me time where we're just not scheduling anything. I'm always telling the entrepreneurs that I work with, you can't schedule something every waking hour of the day.
Yes.
You just can't. Because they will schedule, and we as entrepreneur will wake up and have our schedule set. I said, sometimes schedule in some do nothing time.
Yeah.
Schedule time where you just don't do nothing. Maybe you go walk, maybe you just do something, change up the vibration. So I mean, it's real. We have to learn to do that.
Yes.
And then when you do that, I know for me, when I do that, then if I do go to get my hair done or my nails, and we're talking about business and putting business together, it's more of an enjoyable conversation. But and I just learned that because when I was in Maryland, I wasn't scheduling do nothing time. I was that person that had some schedule from can't see morning to can't see night and beyond. So it just, after a while, I just started zapping out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us about any we got a few minutes left. What upcoming initiatives do you have? I know you have a book. What's the name of your book?
Well, I have 2 journals called the Better Self Journal.
Those are beautiful.
And they're motivational, encouraging. And, I created the Better Self Journal because I wanted to, I had the ideal or the inspiration to do so around towards the end of 2020 and beginning of 2021. And I wanted to just do something not specific to Black women, but the bulk of my clientele, Black women. And so I wanted to create something that would be encouraging, that would, allow women, sisters to take the time to journal. Journal is very for many therapeutic, very cathartic. And so I wanted to just kind of create something that would maybe inspire or even, prompt certain things, because I think um, it's hard to sometimes put our thoughts into words. So, writing in a journal and just being able to
It
take.
gives you a guide. You got a beautiful journal like that. It gives you a guide. I'm big on journaling. I have so many notebooks that I fill up notebooks. Every year I'm writing gratitude journals, and then even during Ramadan, I keep a Ramadan journal where I'm writing down scriptures that just there because I'm reading, and then there's some, whether it's a verse in the Holy Quran or a scripture in the Bible as I'm studying, some things just tug at my heart and say, pay attention to me. And so whatever that word is saying to me, I write it, in my journal. And 99% of the time, something comes up afterwards where I was able to reflect on that. And or dreams are more vivid and night travels are more vivid during Ramadan. So I keep a journal for that. So I agree with you with journaling. I love it.
Yes, yes, it's very helpful, very helpful. So just wanted to create something that would be a tool for um, women or sisters. And I also created a therapy journal called Therapy. So, and this was born from my many therapy sessions, and it allows the client to track how they're feeling during the week. It also just allows for the client to take the time to kind of summarize what we've talked about in session. Recall any homework assignments, because I'm the therapist that gives homework assignments. But it really just allows for anyone who uses it to be able to week by week write about, I should say, how they're feeling, anything that may come up, because oftentimes when I start a session and I'll kind of ask, how has the last week been, the last 2 weeks? And, say something I wanted to tell you, but I can't remember. So I just wanted to have something that could be utilized for clients to be able to write down their thoughts and just help them to prepare for the next session, along with just being able to track and log how they're faring during the week or 2 weeks.
Anything you want our audience to know before we finish?
I am just a proponent of destigmatizing mental health and the stigma that is attached to it. I always want to encourage people to talk to someone. Oftentimes we can experience issues. It could be something current, it could be things from the past, and we don't have to hold on to those issues. Psychotherapy allows a person to be able to speak to someone without judgment, in a non-biased way, and really allow space to just process, unpack, and really have specific time. I have clients who will say, my therapy session is my me time, because it's just you, it's no one else, and the focus is just you. And for many of us, we may be pulled in so many directions, and we don't always have our time. Even when you're trying to get you time, you don't always have that to yourself. But for my clients and for anyone, psychotherapy or your therapy time, that's your time, and you're the star of the show, no one else but that person. And as clinicians, my job isn't to tell someone what to do, it's to help that person, to guide that person through whatever issues or concerns that they're experiencing, and to help them to maybe come to a solution, or to help alleviate some of the distress or stress that they're experiencing. So.
You you mentioned, and I have two questions. You mentioned the stigma attached to mental health. Can you give some examples of what that is so that people who are watching, they probably hear that, but they may not translate that phrase to what they're experiencing in their everyday life?
Okay. Well, therapy, I remember growing up, and when you heard about therapy, you would say, oh, that's for white people, or that's for crazy people. And just the ideal of therapy is a safe space. Therapy is a place where you can talk about your feelings and emotions without judgment. And so for me, I like to think that, when a person is in therapy, they're vulnerable. And oftentimes we don't
Yeah.
have the opportunity to be vulnerable without feeling judged. We may
So
um,
vulnerability is what they may kind of take issue with because they don't want people to
think that they're
judge
weak,
or
or
yeah.
and that's something that's especially in our community. We don't always. Sometimes we're told to suck it up, and suck what up? Suck up your emotions, your feelings. And so therapy is a space where you can feel safe. You can say whatever it is. It's a judgment-free zone. I've heard it all. I've heard a lot. I won't say I've heard it all. I've heard a lot. And, you know, I don't come into the therapy space with my own set of, well, this is how I live my life, so you should live your life exactly how I live my life. Because I don't see all Muslims. I see Muslims, but I don't see all Muslims. So I have to sometimes be able to just be a listening ear. Listening doesn't mean I agree. It doesn't mean that I'm going to cheer you on, because I will certainly, if you're having behaviors that are detrimental to yourself, I'm going to call that out. But we have to be able to start from somewhere. And that somewhere is, you know, making that step towards therapy. That somewhere is feeling comfortable enough to speak to someone who's not going to judge you, who's not going to question, well, why would you do that? Why would you? But just allow you to say what it is that to say or need to say. And then from there, we can work through whatever the issue may be. But it's not a place of judgment and a place for you to feel as if you can't be heard. You can be heard. If you can't be heard in any other space, in the therapy space, it's a space where you can be heard.
So my last question, oftentimes us religious folks, Christians, Muslims, whatever, Buddhists, we we think we don't need therapy when oftentimes we're the main ones that need therapy. What advice would you have for religious people who don't see the value of therapy because they think they have the supreme knowledge?
Well, I will say that none of us are exempt from, we all live in America. I'll just leave it at America, but we know our people all over the world are suffering, but we all live in America. We all have experienced some level of trauma, and none of us are without blemish. None of us are perfect. We're all striving. We're all stressed. We're all working very hard. Some people overworked, underpaid. We're all dealing with a lot. And we know that we can go to our prayer rug. We can make salah. We can talk to Allah. therapy doesn't disallow you from still talking to the God, still talking to the Creator, still praying to whomever you pray to. It's just like if a person has high blood pressure, are you going to tell the person to pray it away? Are you going to tell the person to still eat your fried foods and, everything that will kill you because, well, you have prayer? Just pray it away. No, you're going to recommend that they change their diet, recommend that they increase their exercise, recommend that they do things that will help them to change their hypertension or to address their, whatever diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
So therapy is, or mental health is an issue. It's a health issue. And so for those who may feel as if we don't need it, I would say you have to really come to modern times, because we ride in cars, we don't ride in camels. There's, as we progress with in the world, there's a better understanding of mental health. It used to be, many years ago, if a person was different, if a person had people that experienced mental health issues were subject to all kinds of literal torture, and so now there's so much more information and knowledge that we know that a lot of people experience functional depression. We think about depression as that person who, they won't leave the house, or maybe they won't bathe, or, visibly you can tell that they're experiencing something. Maybe you don't know that it's depression, but it's something. But there's a lot of people who are high functioning and they're experiencing, it could be anxiety. So just because we are on the outside looking as if we are fine does not mean that we are not okay. And I always like to say it's okay to not be okay.
That's right.
It is okay to not be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Thank you, sis. And give us your website so that we'll put that in the chat as well.
Yes, my website is www.themuslimtherapist.org.
themuslimtherapist.org. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
I learned a lot and I appreciate you. And I'm always grateful to people like you who are giving back and loving our people and helping our people get some relief from the pressure that's out here in the world.
Thank you so very much. It was an honor and a pleasure to be on your program.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Walaikum salam. Thank you all. I hope you all learned something today. Her website is themuslimtherapist.org. And we'll have that in the chat for you so that you all can go and sign up and, just try it. Find someone that you can talk to that may not know you and is going to be non-judgmental. But it's important now that we begin to address our mental health. So with that, family, I'm going to ask you, as I do once again, to make sure you support the completion of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House. SajdahHouse.com is where you can go and get your commemorative Elijah coins. We got some other cute things out there for you to get. The finish line is in sight, and we need your support. There's been tons of conversations out here about collectible commodities like copper coins and gold coins. People who are talking to us about collecting these commodities will tell you to purchase them in a collectible manner, because this way it's going to hold its value and it can't necessarily be confiscated. So if you go out and get a bunch of bullion, gold bullion, then there's a chance that it may get confiscated if we get a shortage of bullion. But anyway, that's a whole economic show. I'll get into it. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad inspired me, I believe, to take the old copper from the house and create these commemorative Elijah coins. These are membership coins. And the membership coins means that this number that's on the back becomes your membership number. And if you were with us during Savior's Day, you realize that membership will definitely have its privileges. And so we just got some great things that we want to offer you through this membership program. Plus, it's just a beautiful piece of art. It's a beautiful collector's item. It's made of the old recycled copper from the messenger's home. And this is what's going to help us finish and complete the home of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, along with your donations. If you want to become a sponsor, sponsorship opportunities are available. Send me an email. Send the email to sajdahhouse@gmail.com. That's SAJDAHHOUSE@gmail.com. And I can tell you what sponsorship opportunities are still available. If you want to have your name in the house somewhere, and it goes down in history as you contributing to the creation of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad House Museum. This is my 53rd month grinding and working on this, and I'm asking y'all to come on and join me. Please make a donation, purchase your coin, and inshallah, this summer, very soon, you'll be able to visit and have the Honorable Elijah Muhammad experience that we've been working for these past 53 months to prepare for you. Okay, family, I'll see you all Saturday, inshallah, for the Sajdah Saturday morning coffee talks, where we talk about life, love, and business. And make sure you like and subscribe to the page and join the mailing list. All right, family, peace and blessings. And don't go anywhere, because I got a couple commercials I want you all to see, and I don't want you to go anywhere.
Greetings, conscious entrepreneurs. Add the Mind of an Entrepreneur show to your Roku TV lineup and catch up on past episodes of all your favorite Mo Today shows.
You belong to yourself. You're an independent people, created from the nation of free people. Yes, sir. You don't need to go nowhere but to yourself. Yes, sir. There will be a great separation. Yes, sir. So I said, it is on now.
The college is meant to prepare you for your future. That the time dictates that if we don't do something for ourselves as a people, we will be destroyed. And the aim of the enemy right now is to take us out.
We have God with us. We have Him as our guide. Yes, sir. We don't have to stand around here and ask the question, what must be done? Yes, sir. Get up and let's go and do something. Yes, sir. We cannot sit down. We cannot lay down. Yes, sir. We must get up. Yes, sir. And go to work.
Do you know what real joy is in life? Visioning something and bringing it into reality. That's real joy. Do you know what the next step in joy is? Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity.
Tonight, you need to fasten your seatbelts. We're going to hear from some of the greatest minds in the world. I don't know about you, but I'm tired of trusting our future and the future of our children into the hands of those who don't love us. I believe we need to revitalize black leadership.